What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. We have a lot of movies to talk about. I watched more movies in November than I did any other month, and there's some bad ones. But there are also some films on this list that makes this my personal favorite month of the year so far for movies. I cannot wait to tell you guys what my least favorite movies are all the way up until number 1. Now, normally we're doing a tier list for this video, but I'm just going to be honest, I couldn't get the website to work, so we're doing a normal ranking from 28 to 1. I need your lists down below. Let me know if you enjoy these types of videos. Definitely smash that thumbs up button. We will do them every single month. But next month, we don't just have the best of December, we have the best of the year, the best of the decade. Be on the lookout for that. But right now, top 28. It's going to be a long video. Let's get into it, starting at number 28. This is Drive. This is a movie that came out on Netflix. It is an Indian film. And normally, you know, this year alone, we've had some fantastic Indian television shows. A couple of movies here and there that I've watched that I've really enjoyed. But this is one. I saw the trailer and I said, that is the worst trailer I've ever seen. This movie, I don't even want to talk about it because I know it's going to come up again in a future list. Just know that it is one of the worst movies of the year, if not one of the worst movies I've ever seen personally. That's how bad it is. Watch it. See this? That's not good. Coming in at number 27 is Playing with Fire, the brand new John Cena film that I actually didn't review on this channel. I reviewed on Patreon. Nope. I can see how this is a fun enough family film. And I actually liked some of the performances. Key was really good. John Cena, as always. Leguizamo. Everything else about this film was atrocious. My goodness, Playing with Fire is just a messy 2002 movie that somehow ended up traveling through time to 2019. Why do we get this year? I don't know. It's family fun. Poop jokes and silliness and John Cena taking his shirt off in a family film. That's what kids want to see. Let's move on to number 26. I don't mean to offend anyone. Listen, I know Midway came out, got accepted by a lot of audiences saying how faithful it was to the true story and how things worked very well, but I don't judge the actual story because the story is fantastic. I actually learned a lot from this movie, and I'm glad I know that now. It all comes down to the execution. Roland Emmerich. He is not a good director, let's face it, especially over the last 10, 20 years. Now, have I liked a few of his movies? For sure. But lately, he's really botched his films. And I think Midway, it's not atrocious. It's not on the level of the two films I just talked about, but it's not good. It's not well-paced. I think the acting was really bad. It's an abundance of really bad green screen compared to what we normally get in a movie like this, which is pretty good green screen. No, this just didn't work. I don't know how it didn't work with that budget, how it was visually just, blah. None of the shots worked. The cinematography was gross. Some interesting action scenes, but that's about all I can give Midway. I didn't have fun with this movie whatsoever. Really poor direction by Roland Emmerich. Next up is The Night Before Christmas with Vanessa Hudgens and whoever that guy is. Listen, you guys know what this is. This is a Hallmark Lifetime movie on Netflix where Vanessa Hudgens meets a guy who travels through time and he has to find his love to get back to, you know, medieval times. Because it all just makes sense, right? There are so many Thor references in this. You know, the guy who's clearly out of time. They even mimic another when he slams the cup down and really cringeworthy moments. Now, the relationship between Vanessa Hudgens and the guy, it's sweet, you know? I don't mind Vanessa Hudgens in movies like this. I think she fits perfectly. It's just going to take the right direction, the right script for her to really thrive and become a super likable actress. She's definitely likable right now, but her movie choice, it's not great. You know what else is not great? Charlie's Angels. Charlie's Angels is one of those films I did not respond to. And then Elizabeth Banks comes out and she says, you know, you got to support movies like this with the female leads and yada, yada, yada. We have before. We support the good movies, right? And nothing against you as a person. I love Elizabeth Banks as an actress. I just don't think she's all that good of a director, and I think this movie was sloppily paced. The action was really lame. Some of the worst fight choreography and stunt work I have seen all year. The story was okay. The chemistry between the team, it was clearly the best part of the movie, and I liked certain elements. But once again, it's a movie that I am not going to remember. It took November down a notch, as did all of these movies below it. Now, a movie that did not necessarily take November down a notch, Earthquake Bird. Earthquake Bird comes in at number 23. It seems low, but understand that I really enjoy the month of November. Earthquake Bird is, you know, It's fine for what it is. I think the acting is absolutely astounding. We have Alicia Vikander coming in here and really showing off her chops. She carries this film along with some slick direction and nice cinematography. The technical aspects and the acting is great. What I didn't necessarily respond to is the story. They set some really cool things up in the first 50 minutes, and then they focus on this love triangle that I just didn't really care about, honestly. And along with Midway, my Earthquake Bird review was full of comments like, yeah, you just hate wonderful movies. And it's like, guys, this is all opinion-based. Nobody's wrong, nobody's right. I'm not saying I'm right and not loving Earthquake Bird, but it is a movie I would recommend because I do think some people will respond a lot more than I did. Last Christmas, gave you my heart. Okay, Last Christmas. I did that during the review. I'm going to do it again. Last Christmas was 2/3 of a really good movie. Not a really good movie. A cute rom-com for the intended audience. I think it was working. It was thriving. It was doing well. And a lot of that has to do with Emilia Clarke and Henry Golding's chemistry. I think both are really talented actors, two of the best in their field. But you get into that third act, and we start revealing things and twisting the story on its head just a bit. And normally I would be okay with that in a romantic comedy, but it's a decision that didn't work for me. Now, for some, it worked. I saw some pretty good reviews of this movie, and I understand why, because there is this sweet aspect to it. I can't quite get it to fresh, because those decisions towards the end really killed it for me, and then it's too lighthearted and sweet at the end when I think the movie called for something a bit differently. Regardless, that comes in at my number 22 spot. Number 21, well, I didn't even mean for this to be. It's 21 Bridges. That's weird. Regardless, Chadwick Boseman comes in and stars in this Russo brothers produced film. I said it in my review. I'm saying it again. They did not direct this movie. That is very clear and evident. Now, you can kind of feel their touch because of the way that the dialogue runs, and there are certain scenes in this movie that really work. There's a funeral scene at the beginning that I thought was very well done, very well shot. But it's unfortunately a film that we've seen many times before, and they try to throw in this like gut-punching twist at the end. You know, the bad cops, the good cops, some people are rats, some people are not. Not a Scorsese kind of twist, but a twist that turns things on their heads, and it didn't really go anywhere for me. I think the acting was good. It was nice seeing some of these actors kind of out of their element, J.K. Simmons especially, but Chadwick Boseman carries this movie. Without him, I think it would have been a very forgettable time. Instead, it's just a slightly forgettable time. Next up is Let It Snow, and I know this movie got, not trashed, but people didn't like this film, and I get it. I thought Let It Snow was sweet for what it was. You know, it's not a movie that's going to come in and sweep you off your feet and you're going to remember for the fantastic performances, this and that. No, Let It Snow is full of great teenage up-and-coming actors. It is just a story about three different sets of people all coming together at a party at the end. It's for a specific audience for sure. It's for the teenage audience and maybe the young adult audience. And they're going to respond to it. They're going to get something out of the story. A lot of love stories, some triangles in there, some people feeling uncomfortable in their own skin. You've seen it before, but it is based on a novel from John Green and other writers, which I didn't say in my review, and I should have said it wasn't just John Green. Regardless, Let It Snow was okay. You know, it was one of those films that I won't ever see again, but I'm not upset that I woke up super early and watched it on Netflix, even though I was really tired that morning, but a monster will wake you up. The white ones, those are delicious. Lady and the Tramp comes in at number 19. This is a Disney live-action movie. We know these have not been ridden with controversy all year, right? Right? Well, Lady and the Tramp actually brings in some pretty solid performances. I like some of the voice acting. I like some of the acting in general. I thought some of the shots were more interesting than other Disney live-action movies we have seen this year, and Lady and the Tramp was a sweet film that captured the magic of the original. Now, I don't hold the original in super high regard in the same vein as Dumbo earlier this year, but Dumbo felt like a movie that just could not figure out what it wanted to be. Lady and the Tramp knew what it wanted to be, and I'm surprised Disney put this one. I get it, because they knew it wouldn't make as much money at the box office, but quality-wise, it's better than some of the other ones they've had this year. Absolutely. Coming in at number 18, Adopt a Highway. Now, this is a new movie starring Ethan Hawke, directed by Logan Marshall Green, who we know from Upgrade, who we know from Spider-Man Homecoming. He's a guy who's not well known as a director, but he comes in and really directs a solid movie. It's not great, right? But Adopt a Highway does what it has to do and features a really good performance from Ethan Hawke. It's all about a guy who just got out of prison, and he's been gone a long time. He's just adjusting to personal, normal life, and then he finds a baby in a dumpster and really falls in love in this fatherly way, and it really is his purpose in life. That's what it feels like. Wow, what a heartwarming story. Now, is it perfect? No. Definitely some flaws. You can tell it's a first-time filmmaker, and the movie isn't as compelling as that premise that I just read, but it's still compelling enough to where I can give it a slightly positive score. Another one that I can give a positive score to is another one that I didn't review on this channel, and that is Motherless Brooklyn, directed by Edward Norton, starring Edward Norton, featuring a pretty good performance by Bruce Willis. Say, what? This is an old-timey mob boss story, a very different one that we're not used to, but it is one that I kind of responded to. You know, I thought this thing held some really solid performances, some nice cinematography, and just a cool atmosphere. You don't get that sense of style nowadays, especially one with a story so different, dealing with politics, of course, and a nice little thing with Alec Baldwin in there. It is lengthy. It does get jumbled every now and then. Some subplots that came in didn't work. One storyline in particular, I'm just like, why do we need that? It feels like we're wasting time. Motherless Brooklyn was long, but it's another one that I would give a slightly positive score to. Next up, Noel. This is another Disney Plus original film. Noel was okay, but it was okay in a way that I feel like a lot of general audiences are going to watch this. This is going to be a movie that kids grow up with in the same vein of Elf, right? I love Elf, one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time. I grew up with that. It had this really quirky sense of humor to it, but it really fit with the time. Today's time, 2019, is a lot different than the early 2000s. Humor has changed. That sense of style and comedy has changed, and I feel like Noel captures that kind of humor for kids the way that Elf captured that kind of humor, just on a more frantic and crazy level. But Noel is cute. Anna Kendrick is perfect for this world, and I didn't have a horrible time watching it. I recommend Noel, especially if you have Disney Plus. Okay, are there any Terminator fans in the house? I'm a fan of the first two. I don't really care about the other movies. So if you look at this franchise as a whole, there were, 2 for 5? Yeah, I don't really like those statistics, and let's be honest here. One of the reasons why people don't like this movie is, and say what you will, it's the decision made at the beginning of this film. And I'm still not going to say what it is if you care at this point, but here's what I'll say to that. To all of the hardcore Terminator fans out there, I don't care. And I'm not trying to be rude, but this is something that they've tried 3 times. They've tried this particular storyline, not saying what it is. They've tried it 3 times. It hasn't worked. They wanted to go in a different direction in this film, and you know what? Golf clap. Good for them. They tried. Is the movie great? No. Does it execute on everything perfectly? No. But I like the direction from Tim Miller. I like the fact that they tried something different. And I'm just so sick of franchises making decisions that are going in a different direction, veering away from something that hasn't worked in the past because people have complained. And then people complain about the decision that is different from the one that people were complaining about. And maybe I'm venting. I can vent to you guys because I love you guys and I appreciate you watching my videos. And maybe you are that hardcore Terminator fan that did not like that decision. Okay, that's fine. But the responses in my comment section of that video were just so hostile towards each other, just back and forth like, no, you deserve to die and you're an idiot. And I'm just like, guys, it's a movie. And it's not just a movie, it's another attempt at a stale and tired franchise. Just let it go. Stop it. I'm saying that about a movie that I actually thought was okay. I had fun with this film. There's some really good action, some great direction from Tim Miller, but it's not one that's going to come anywhere near my top movies of the year. It was okay. It was fine. But everyone was acting like this franchise was just the talk of the town when the movie comes out and barely makes any money. Now, a lot of that has to do with the sequels that have come out and underperformed, but I don't think it would have made a lot of money regardless because I think this fan base has just kind of died out. Now, there are definitely passionate Terminator fans, and if you're out there, let me know, and I respect that heavily. But there are also some Terminator fans that come across in a very negative way, and I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Number 14, Frozen 2. Frozen 2 is a movie that I thought was, pretty good. I like Frozen 2. I liked it just as much as I like Frozen 1. I don't think this franchise is magnificent. I understand why it's making all of the money at the box office. I think the songs are great. I think it's a great sisterly story, especially the second one. I actually prefer the plot in Frozen 2 over the plot in Frozen 1. I prefer a few of the songs over some of the songs in Frozen 1. Now, I think the songs in Frozen 1 were more consistent. I think Frozen 1 has more epic moments, and I think there are certain side characters that aren't as annoying in Frozen 1. But Frozen 2 had some really good things going for it, so I'm not going to talk too much longer on it, but I like this movie. It's one of the better animated films I've seen this year, for sure. Next up is The Report. The Report is the brand new Adam Driver movie that I actually reviewed on Friday. This film dropped on Prime Video. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's still in the 7 out of 10 range, so I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was good. You know, it's a nice Spotlight-esque story, telling a story about a story that maybe not everyone knows about. It's something that is a bit inhumane. It's something that is tough to talk about, but this story, it stays focused. It never veers off into the family life of our characters, or it tries to fight too hard to let you realize why their emotions are the way that they are. No, it stays consistent, and that's one thing that I liked about The Report, along with many other things, solid filmmaking. It's a solid movie all around, one that I would recommend. Next up is The Nightingale. Did you notice that I changed shirts? Well, I'm not gonna lie, it was so hot in this room, and I was burning up, and you probably saw me like twitching, and it was miserable, so I had to do it. Dr. Pepper, drink it. It's not a sponsor. Okay, The Nightingale, directed by Jennifer Kent. I really like this movie. Here's what I expected going in, though. I thought it would be a pure horror film. I even had people in my horror countdown like, hey, Austin, you forgot about The Nightingale. Well, I looked it up, and it was under the thriller category, and I was like, really? Jennifer Kent, the director of The Babadook? But no, it really was a thriller. Horrifying elements and imagery for sure. And it is a movie that will haunt you to your core, but it's not haunting you because it's scary per se. It's haunting you because it's disturbing, and frankly, there are some scenes in here that are some of the hardest scenes to watch in 2019, but it is a really well-made movie. I mean, the direction is just awesome. I loved the aspect ratio. I love everything about the acting. You enjoy The Babadook, and you think this is a movie for you after reading the summary. Just know that there's going to be some imagery in there. It may catch you off guard. It is on Hulu right now. Next up is The King, starring Timothée Chalamet, Joel Edgerton, Robert Pattinson, who delivers a French accent. Let's face it, I don't know if it was accurate or not, but I really loved it for what it was. I enjoyed this movie, I think, a lot more than some people. Some people hated it, frankly. They thought the pacing was ridiculously slow. They weren't on board for the historical accuracy, and I am not a history buff, therefore that does not bother me. I judge the movie for the movie. Now, if it does it in an offensive way, sure, I don't think this movie was offensive. I don't think. What do I know? Regardless, I think The King was very well done. Some great acting. Joel Edgerton may be his best, most likable performance that I've ever seen him give. The King comes in at number 11, barely missing out of my top 10. And in my number 10 spot is an animated film that is really fighting for my number 9. They keep going back and forth in my head, and I honestly don't know which one to pick. My number 10 is I Lost My Body. I just watched this on Netflix. It is so beautifully animated. I mean, some of the best and most gorgeous-looking animation I've seen all year. 2 great storylines. One of a guy who falls in love with a girl, kind of gets a bit stalkerish, of course, but ends up near her so he can allow himself to open up to her because of what he suffered when he was younger, growing up in his past. And then there's another storyline of a severed hand crawling around like the little hand in the Addams Family trying to find its body because I lost my body. 2 great storylines that tie together in an unexpected, beautiful way, just a beautiful story all the way around. Some subplots in there that I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I Lost My Body is truly a wonderful animated movie, and I want Netflix to push this and another movie we're going to talk about really hard for the animated category for the Oscars this year. I think they both can make it. Another one that I want to talk about right now is Klaus. Klaus is the brand new Netflix movie that I thought was just awesome. So surprising. I even gave it a score. I gave it a score that I would probably up now because it's resonated with me. It's stuck with me. It's such a beautiful tale of how Santa Claus came to be, just told in a different way, in a different fashion. Really likable characters, silly, zany, wacky animated things happening, taking advantage of animation, which is something that I don't think enough animated movies do nowadays. They definitely do that. It looks beautiful. It feels beautiful. I love the atmosphere. I love the setting. Klaus is a movie that you just can't miss. If you have Netflix, if you like Christmas, you cannot miss Klaus. Go see it right now. It may even move up my list at the end of the year. Right now, I'm going, Won't You Be My Neighbor? Just kidding. It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. The other one was the documentary. This is the story, the tale of Tom Hanks's Mr. Rogers. Or is it? So the story's not actually focused on him. It is focused on this guy who has some personal things going on in his life right now with he and his father, and he really is just kind of curmudgeonous. Yeah, I don't like life. I'm a Scrooge. But once you start interviewing Mr. Rogers or allowing Mr. Rogers to interview you, things in your life will begin to change, and he realizes that, he acknowledges that, And this is a movie that I just thought was beautiful, man. And I love the way that they lay it out like a Mr. Rogers episode. It's not a story that is going to catch you off guard in any way. It is a tad bit predictable. And like I said, our main character is meh, but he's really good in the movie. He deserves the number 8 spot on my list. But one that was fighting for that 8 spot ended up at number 7. These two movies were just... it was so hard to choose, but I went with Queen and Slim as the winner of the two. Queen and Slim was just so well directed. I mean, the direction in this thing is phenomenal, but it really is the performances. Of course, Kaluuya, yes, absolutely, but Jodie Turner-Smith was shockingly wonderful. I mean, her performance was just tragically subtle, and their chemistry carried the entire film, filled with amazing filmmaking. Now, it's not an action-packed story. It's not a story that's going to keep you on your toes the entire time. Some will call it slow. I saw that in my comment section. Regardless, it's a movie that you don't stop thinking about because of the emotional and the tragic ending, and an ending that's going to leave you just walking out of that theater after the credits, right? It's a movie you just sit through the credits through because you have to let things soak in. And that's exactly how Queen and Slim left me. So much better since I took that sweater off. Okay, next up, Dr. Sleep, the sequel to The Shining. Ewan McGregor's performance in this film is absolutely outstanding. Everything about the movie caught me off guard in the best way possible. These different storylines going on. It really is kind of a Stephen King superhero story. Because our characters here, they're almost like superheroes. They have powers. Rebecca Ferguson is on the other side, her and her weird crew just waiting, craving, and seeking out these people that can shine. And I love the way this ties into the original movie without overdoing it. I was disappointed with a certain aspect later on in the film that, caught me off guard in a way. I'm like, I wish they would have, gotten the thing. But it ended up resonating well with me because I'm happy that they separated themselves enough from The Shining, but they definitely hit on it in that third act. And I just thought the movie was really good. I don't need to talk that much more about it because Dr. Sleep is a film that you're going to see if you are a horror fan. Even though it didn't do very well at the box office, I think people will seek it out and watch it eventually. Now, these next two movies are two movies that you could see switch places by the end of the year. My number 5 is Ford v Ferrari. And I thought Mangold absolutely destroyed this film in the best way possible. He brought some slick direction, some incredible racing scenes, and he brought out two phenomenal performances in Christian Bale and Matt Damon. Two actors who just brought everything they could to these characters. The chemistry was great. A third act that catches you off guard, hits you just right in the face emotionally. I've said that a lot about movies that have come out in November. November, like I said, is the best month for movies of the year so far for me. So many great films. You're going to see my top 5, 6 movies being talked about at the end of the year, whether that's honorable mentions or maybe even my top 10 movies of the year. Regardless, Ford v Ferrari fought for that number 4 spot. But a movie that I gave the exact same score to, but I'm going to put one spot higher, is Honey Boy. I just watched Honey Boy, Shia LaBeouf's basically life story, telling it in a very strange, different, but sweet way and emotional way, being played by Noah Jupe and Lucas Hedges, both outstanding versions of Shia LaBeouf. Noah Jupe really stole the movie for me, his chemistry with Shia LaBeouf, who is playing an alternate version of his father because our character's name here is Otis. It's not Shia. But you can see that this was Shia's life growing up. I just thought it was so well written by Shia LaBeouf. I thought the direction was great as well. Honey Boy is a movie that sticks with you. Unconventional pacing and unconventional telling of a story like this, but one that worked very, very well for me, and that's why it's number 4. At number 3 is Knives Out. Rian Johnson's film is some of the most fun I've had in the theater all year. It is a murder mystery that is going to blow some people away. It's a murder mystery that is going to keep you on your toes. The performances were outstanding, magnificent. Chris Evans almost stole the show, but Ana de Armas, she was fantastic in this movie, really taking up a lot of the screen time, along with our boy Daniel Craig, James Bond, who just... he brings in an accent every now and then like he did in Logan Lucky. He doesn't get in this movie. It's a different accent, but oh my gosh, I just love the way he talks in this film. He's awesome. The movie is great. Even my brother, who's watched maybe 10, 15 movies this year, came out going, yep, that was a blast, a lot of fun. I expected it to be a slow Oscar film. It is not that, even though it is a movie that I think should be considered for many Oscars. Yeah, Knives Out is a movie for everyone. Another movie for everyone. And I'm pretty sure this will end up in my top 10 of the year. This is Marriage Story. Marriage Story is phenomenal. Noah Baumbach, who is just, he's a filmmaker that makes choices every now and then that maybe turns some people off. I believe in a filmmaker taking chances like he does. The Merowitz Stories is one of my favorite movies of his. It's not a movie that everyone would choose as their favorite, but now I have to say Marriage Story is my favorite of his movies. It is one of the best movies of the year. The relationship between Scarlett Johansson's character and Adam Driver's character, their chemistry, out freaking standing. I watched an interview recently with Scarlett Johansson where she said, no, none of it was, off script. Every word was from the pages. And I'm like, how? It just felt like you were ad-libbing it felt like they were married, right? Married couple going through a divorce, because that's what this movie is about. But those were the vibes that I was getting from Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson the entire time, and it's such a sweet and wonderful relationship until you recall that they're getting a divorce. I've never seen anything like it in a movie, to be honest. There's not one scene that didn't work in this film. It's technically very close to perfect, right? It's not a story that will attract everyone. It is one that will rub people the wrong way if you've went through a divorce, if you're going through a divorce. It may be one that is rough to watch. It's tough to watch. But it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's what movies are all about. Marriage Story is almost perfect. Yeah, it really is. Now, my number one movie is probably less perfect than Marriage Story, just on a technical and story level. But it is one that I think hit me just a slightly bit harder. They're going to be very close at my end of the year list. But that's The Irishman. The Irishman is a little bit too long. That's it. That's the problem. Maybe an overuse of the de-aging CGI, but honestly, guys, after a while, I didn't even notice it. I think everything about this movie is thoroughly entertaining. I had a wonderful time in the theater. I am so glad I drove a long way to see this film and a long way back, but it was worth that drive, right? I'm doing the exact same thing for 1917 on Monday. I am driving 3.5 hours to see that movie, an early premiere, so I can get that review out for you guys. I hope it's as worth it as The Irishman's drive was, because The Irishman did everything you want in a movie. It was entertaining, it was captivating, it was different. It was a classic Scorsese mob story. I put my Scorsese list out yesterday if you want to check that out. You see where The Irishman ranked. But it puts a new spin on it, and it really deals with reflection and looking back on a life full of mistakes, full of decisions that maybe you don't regret, but you should regret from a family standpoint, and great performances by Pacino, Pesci, De Niro. I've talked enough. My number one favorite movie of November is The Irishman. Very close to Marriage Story, but I have to give the edge to that one. I need your movies down below. I need your lists. What did you think of November? What have you thought of 2019 so far? What end of the year lists do you want to see from me at the end of the year? I have a lot of things planned, but if there's one specifically, I would love to see these comments down below. And like I said, hit that thumbs up button. It helps out this channel, helps out this series of videos. Apologies once again for not being able to do the tier list, but it just wasn't working. I don't know. I can't get it to work. We'll have to see where that goes in the future. Regardless, I had a great time talking about these films, counting these down. Hopefully, when this video comes out, I am on my way to Tennessee to see 1917 and hopefully waves. But I'll have to let you guys know. I'll keep you updated. You are truly the best. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.